Welcome to the Motormouth YouTube channel. I'm Zach.
I'm Andrea.
And we do full-length car reviews each and every week, and we stop halfway through for a segment called Questions, Coffee, and Cars. We spun it off. We're at number 83. And how do you get a question in?
Follow along on Instagram at Motormouth_Andrea. Every Sunday morning, I put a post out asking for questions. Once we gather our questions, the post is deleted and we start the show.
Time now for Questions, Coffee, and Cars.
Your questions from Instagram.
I saw a Honda Crosstour in traffic the other day and thought, wow, that's cute. It looks like the new Buick Envista. I was sad to see it was discontinued. Any chance it'll come back? Also, I have a 2016 CR-V and I'd like to upgrade someday, but can't live without the right-hand camera for lane change. Can it be added aftermarket?
But it was the Crosstour, right?
Yeah, did you ever drive that?
Yeah, no, I
never
it.
drove that.
Yeah, it was a flop. It was basically an Accord that they turned into this thing. And then over on the Acura side, they had the ZDX, the ZDX.
Ooh, that didn't sell, did
That
it?
sold even worse. And I don't know, there was a time there, certainly was styling on the Acura side. Remember they had the beak, the pointy beak? That was a whole thing for them. But yeah, it was the wrong car at the wrong time. I think this sort of half car, half SUV crossover thing might fly today.
Yeah, maybe.
But better styled.
But that ZDX was a coupe, right? More like a coupe crossover.
So the Cross, if I'm getting the name right, the Crosstour was built up from an Accord, and the ZDX was built down from an MDX.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And the Crosstour, the brakes were terrible because it was bigger and heavier, but it was the same brakes. They didn't upgrade the brakes.
So I reached out to Phil from Honda, a product planner who we just saw.
You got Phil's email?
I have his phone number.
Oh, I see Andrea. Okay, remember a couple Questions, Coffee, and Cars ago, I told you we're at these events. Andrea's there with the product planner. So, Phil, tell me. And she asked all these questions. And you got his email?
This is his number. This is Phil's worst nightmare. No. He's so good, Phil. So I thought, you know what? We're talking about Honda Acura. So I'll reach out to Phil and see what he thinks. So he said, yeah, there's aftermarket equipment. And you can do it. And it's funny because Phil actually says he was asked this question many times before, so he had the answer right away. So you can do it, but the problem is if there are any issues with it that affect other parts of the vehicle, your warranty may not be covered. Yeah, so you have to be really careful with that kind of stuff. So out of warranty car,
yes, but a car in warranty, I wouldn't touch it. So if you're not aware, we have a Honda Civic with this feature. When you turn your right signal on, the camera under the right mirror projects onto the center screen. It's very helpful in city traffic, especially for bicycles and pedestrians and things. I can understand if you have it, you like it.
Our son really likes it.
I wish they had a little monitor on the left that did it the other way, but yeah, I can see why you'd want it. But I wouldn't mess with anything until the warranty's done.
For sure. Huge fan of your show. Why do you think manufacturers are moving away from fog lights? Genesis actually had on their site a whole thing about this, and that Genesis says most Korean brands don't use fog lights anymore on their new vehicles. And the biggest reason is because in the past we used halogen. And halogen lights are just not great in those sorts of conditions like fog. But LED headlamps, they say that they take care of all that. Yeah, but our GTI has fog lamps.
Well, that's part of the style. It's more of the style. It's more to give an aggressive look. I would suggest that their function has long since passed. You got to remember in fog, the reason why they're called fog lights is if you have like regular headlamps on in the fog, it reflects back at you and it can just blind you out. So the fog lights at the bottom would come on so you can get some view without the lights. And this is in the days when you could turn the headlights on and off. Now all the headlights come on automatically.
I know.
So for most vehicles, it's the styling exercise. And then you add in the highly advanced headlamp systems we have now. They're far and away better than anything we've ever had in the past. Every year they get better. Yeah. So they're not really needed. And it's just a styling exercise. I like them.
I like the way they look on the GTI for sure, but they're not necessary anymore. Once again, technology has improved so much that we don't need them. Hi, we are the Vales from PEI.
Nice.
Hi.
We got to get Andrew to PI. You've never been to PI.
I know, I've got to go. I've got to go. The Vales are there, so that's pretty cool.
Cocktails on the deck.
My husband and I love your channel. I travel for work, so it's about 120 kilometers per day and mostly highway. Should we purchase a PHEV or electric? We have been looking at a Sportage or Sportage, Tucson PHEV, and a Kona EV. Any advice would be great.
Oh, I think that you could do either, and there's no wrong answer there. Yeah. I think you've got, with a Kona EV, certainly enough range to get you there and back. But, you know, PEI, I know, can get monster snowstorms because it's basically flat, and they get these huge snow drifts. We were there on an event with Toyota, and the guy that was driving us around in the big bus, so his part-time job was driving the bus.
Yeah.
His full-time job, he said he was the sheriff.
Oh.
Or something. And I asked him about the snowstorms. He said, oh, yeah, we don't get that many, but when they come, they're bad news. Right. But I guess if it's that bad, you stay home anyway.
For sure. You wouldn't even go out. They probably wouldn't recommend you going out on the road anyway.
But there you go. I mean, there is no wrong answer. You could get either and it would work for you.
Yeah, and I think in your case, because you do put so many kilometers on it a day, you're going to run out of range on the plug-in hybrid. They just don't offer that much. The leader in the non-luxury category is the RAV4 at 68 kilometers, 42 miles.
Spendy, man, spendy.
What I would do is just put it in hybrid, but then why don't you just get a hybrid or a pure EV?
Or just get a really efficient gasoline car. If it's all highway driving, listen, you could get a Jetta for like about 25 grand. Yep. And that thing gets hybrid fuel economy, is way cheaper.
Yeah.
And you're going to rack up, like if you're doing that many miles a day, you're depreciating the car very quickly.
I know.
The only thing that's good about the EV is that they don't care about miles.
No, and you're never worrying about gas. I think in your case, the EV is the way to go, especially when you get to work and they may have a level 2 charger there. Some companies are doing that and you're able to plug it in. I don't think you need to, as long as you have enough range to get there and back.
And
you're fine.
You have enough range.
Hi guys, love your videos. I never miss an episode. Thank you. Starbucks or Tim Hortons?
Well, if Tim, it's funny, Andrea, I was in the shower thinking about this. Why I was in the shower thinking about questions, coffee, and cars, probably because I knew we were doing it
today.
And I was thinking about a sponsor, and if Tim Hortons came on board and sponsored, this is exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Just this morning. I was thinking, if Tim Hortons came in, I would happily have a Tim Hortons mug, and I would happily drink their coffee because I think their coffee's good. We actually have a Starbucks like so close to our house, it's scary.
So Tim Hortons, if you're listening, we're in for Timmy's.
If anybody works for Tim Hortons in the marketing department, or you have somebody that works at the Tim Hortons marketing department, or you have a relative, oh, my daughter's the marketing manager for Tim Hortons. We would sponsor this segment and we'll drink your Timmies.
So here's something interesting. I used to work for Pepsi, and
Could you get them to, we'll switch to Pepsi. Pepsi coffee, no. Coffee.
I do like Pepsi. Okay, so here's the thing.
I actually prefer Coke Zero, but don't tell Pepsi.
Don't tell Pepsi, because I worked at Pepsi for a long time. Guess what? By the plant there, and I obviously worked every day there.
Were you like Laverne and Shirley working on the line?
No, I wasn't working on the line. I was in marketing.
I know.
However, there was a Tim Hortons right by, and every morning I stopped for a Tim Hortons. I had a Tim Hortons every day, and I loved it. It was wonderful. I think I got this like giant extra large, and Zach knows me.
Okay.
I drink my coffee
over hours.
Like I really enjoy it, and it gets a little bit cool sometimes. And Zach's like, are you still drinking that? Well, I would get this giant one, and I would just drink it.
Okay, this is the way it went for Andrea going to Pepsi. She would drive her 7 Series long wheelbase BMW.
I know.
And she
what a
big,
car.
big
what a
luxury car, and roll down the window. Yes, I'll have my coffee.
Timmy's.
And then off to work. So that wasn't so bad, was it?
Life was good. Life is good.
This was BK. Before kids.
Yeah, before kids.
When all our money was ours.
But we love them so.
We love them so.
We love them so. Yeah. They're wonderful boys.
If you've got kids, you remember what it was like.
Yeah.
No kids, all that money was yours.
Yeah, they do. They do. Our son.
That's why we need a Tim Hortons sponsor.
Our youngest son is traveling a bit right now. And boy, the food bill is really a lot lower. Like I'm hardly going to the grocery store.
All right, let's move on.
Like,
Let's
what?
move on.
Love your channel, the Q&A program especially. Thank you. Our family has a 2015 Q5, which runs well, except that it costs a lot on premium gas and relatively and increasingly more expensive on maintenance. Does it make sense to trade in for an Onyx Outback for similar all-wheel drive drivetrain, better fuel economy, but I'm not sure if it's worth it. If Subaru's maintenance costs less or if we're just better off to keep driving the Q5.
Well, the cheapest car to own is the one you have, right? But the car's almost 10 years old.
By the way, they live in Montreal.
Okay, so a 10-year-old car in Montreal is definitely aging faster than a 10-year-old car here in BC with the salt and all that kind of stuff. And so yeah, I would take your Audi to an independent mechanic and get them to put it up on the hoist and have a real good long look at it and see where you're going to be with it for maintenance. But it's you're kind of getting to the age where it's time maybe to get a new car.
The other thing is, you know, cars have really gone up in price. So this Subaru Onyx that you're talking about is over $43,000 now, and it's the non-turbo engine. But my concern is that I think the 2015 Q5 had 228 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque. That Onyx has the non-turbo engine, and it has 182 horsepower and 176 pound-feet of torque. You're going to feel the difference in that. You will get better fuel economy, so it really depends on what your priority is.
Do yourself a favor, go to the dealer and drive the turbo. You will not want that one after you drive it.
Fuel economy is
Yeah,
his
but you know what?
concern.
It's regular gas. It's way cheaper than a Q5. It's an almost 10-year-old car. You know, still the cheapest car is the one you own. Or if you really think it's going to cost you a lot to keep it running for the next few years, you know, that Outback would be great for Montreal's crappy roads.
It does. If you do a lot of highway driving, you'll get better fuel economy. If you're doing mostly city, then anyway, drive it.
Drive the turbo and try it.
Yeah, but then it goes up in price with that turbo. You know, then you're getting up there. I think, I don't know exactly what the turbo, what it starts at, but it's above 43,000. I promise this is my last question. No, you can keep asking questions. Just want to know your thoughts on the official announcement for the Acura ADX.
It's great. It's way overdue. It's 10 years overdue.
Yeah.
I mean, Honda's had a massive hit with the HR-V over, I don't know, how long has it been out? It's been out for more than 10 years.
Yeah.
And why they don't have a compact crossover in their lineup makes no sense to me.
No sense.
You know.
I'm absolutely thrilled about this. I think this is going to be a huge seller for Acura. I don't know what they're going to price it at, but people will be waiting for this one. You look at the Honda HR-V, it's gotten bigger in size. I assume that ADX is also going to be an excellent size. I'm thrilled. It's a long time coming. Hello from Vancouver. Appreciating the later time slot for posting questions.
Yeah, Andrea changed it. I said, what are you doing to these people? 7 in the morning.
The West Coast, they weren't too happy with it. So now
Don't tell the time.
Okay.
Just say Sunday morning.
Okay,
Just be
Sunday
very
morning.
vague.
I'm vague. It's
Stay
Sunday
on your
morning.
toes.
Anyway, this person is happy. Loved your insightful and well-researched analysis last week on EV sales. We would be very interested in your perspective on Tesla's move to halt expansion of their Supercharger network and lay off the hundreds of staff that built it. Thanks again for your engaging and smart content. Did you hear that, hon?
Oh, I read all about it. Oh, I was talking about the Tesla thing. Oh, I read all about it.
I guess our content is smart.
Tesla or Elon Musk has decided to lay off pretty much the entire Supercharge network staff. And now we're hearing reports of Superchargers not getting fixed. And there's a kind of a conspiracy going around, Andrea. This is just as the other manufacturers have started having their vehicles line up. Ford has, you can go and charge your Ford there now.
GM.
And I kind of wonder if it's basically, there's no money in it for them. That's one thing. It's not a profit center for Tesla. And Tesla's revenue dropped by 55% in the first quarter. Yeah. I'm guessing if he's laying all these people off, the second quarter might be worse. and he keeps dropping the prices of the cars. The sales in China are dropping because Chinese want to buy Chinese brands. They still sell a lot. Who's kidding who? But there's
and they do make Teslas in China.
And there's a huge surge of Chinese-made and owned and operated and purchased vehicles there. So I think it's a cost-saving thing. I don't know what his plan is. It's very odd.
Well, GM and Ford say they are staying the course. They're not changing their plan. They're monitoring the situation. Now, Elon Musk did say on X that Tesla still plans to expand the Supercharger network, just at a lower pace for new locations, and will focus on 100% uptime and expansion of existing locations. And analysts have gone on to say that he could have disbanded the existing Supercharger organization to build a leaner and less expensive team to run the operations. These analysts go on to say that with sales of Tesla's EVs falling, as Zach had mentioned, and profit margins under pressure, that he could be cutting Supercharger network spending to conserve cash for other projects that will make him more money.
Yeah, so there's a problem. Now, what they could also do, and this is one way he could raise money, is he could spin that off as a separate company, because you have all of these other companies going to be using the Supercharger network, and he might spin it off and say, okay, all you guys want to use it, now you've got to come in as partners. So that, I mean, there's lots of ways he could do it, but it's a very odd thing, because what's the number one advantage Tesla has over many of its competitors? It's the supercharging network. Like we hear all the time, people say, oh yeah, that's a nice EV, you know, it's maybe competitively priced, but I'm going to go with a Tesla because I get the supercharging network, which isn't going away. That is true.
It's still here.
But the thing is, if there's going to be more and more and more people using it, then they're going to have to expand it. And it doesn't seem like that's happening at a pace that's going to be
at that pace right now. So we'll see how that all plays out. But GM and Ford are staying the course, and you can still use the Supercharger network. I mentioned this in a comment on the Maverick Hybrid video, but after watching that, I wanted to spec out an XLT front-wheel drive hybrid on Ford Canada's site, and was disappointed to discover that they have made it more expensive than an EcoBoost all-wheel drive model. Very disappointing. That is true. Now, in the US, it's $1,500 extra for that XLT hybrid versus the EcoBoost, and in Canada, it's an extra $500.
Yeah, but most companies charge more for a hybrid. I mean, the fact that they were inverted on that when they first brought it out 2 years ago seemed odd. Now, of course, it's front-wheel drive versus all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, but I think that they're just following the market, and that's the most popular one. They want to make money. That's really what they're doing.
I think what disappoints people is that Ford had a huge campaign when they brought out the Maverick that hybrid is standard. That is the standard powertrain, and now they've changed that. But interestingly enough, for those who watched our Maverick video, and we thought it was a good one, the 2-liter EcoBoost sells better in Canada because of the all-wheel drive option, and it is the opposite in the US. The hybrid sells better. That front-wheel drive model doesn't bother, you know, some people in different states with warmer weather.
Yeah, so I still think that, and the other thing is, 2 years a lot changes. And what's changed in 2 years? Crazy inflation.
Yeah.
Like you think 2 years ago, Ford priced that product for the market at the time, and then inflation has taken off. They have inflationary pressures on the production side and the sales side. I don't know if you've checked. Just go and look at other websites for cars. They're all way, way, way more expensive.
Well, we just talked about the Outback.
Yeah, than
43,000.
Than 2 years ago. It's just crazy. So Ford has to realize the current price, not the 2-year-old price. And they have a products that they can't make enough of. If I was running Ford, if I was Jim Farley, I would say, yeah, have a $1,500 premium on the hybrid. If people want it, they can pay for it.
And some people were saying, you know, boy, the Maverick's really gone up in price in that top trim with all the extras and the bells and whistles. Yeah, like it's like, you know, up at $46,000 Canadian now. And that is true. That is true. But you don't have to get all the bells and whistles. And I think that the key here is that Ford has produced a pickup truck that is a hybrid, yes, front-wheel drive, that is affordable. You don't have to get all the bells and whistles.
I want one. We were out driving yesterday, and Andrea and I went, okay, last night, you know, we got a Miata long-term test, right? We went on a romantic after-dinner sunset cruise around the city. We went all the way.
Hey, we didn't get an ice cream. Remember you said
I suggested it, and you went on the ice cream. So next time we go out, we'll go and go for an ice cream. But the thing is that it was a beautiful night driving around, and I said to Andrea, let's get a Maverick too.
Yeah, right.
And she said, no, there's nowhere to park it.
We have too many cars right now. But basically, when we are ready to start selling off some vehicles, then we can consider other things. But in the meantime, we have too many cars, and so we are just going to stay the course, just like GM and Ford with Tesla Supercharger network. We are staying the course. We are not getting a Maverick.
It's itchy.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. You know,
Okay,
I do watch these videos back.
Maybe you're not watching it now. All right, so that's all the time we have for this one. How do you get a question in?
Follow along on Instagram at motormouth_Andrea. Every Sunday morning, I put a post out with Zach and I holding coffees, asking for questions. Once we gather our questions, the post is deleted and we start the show.
We'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks for watching.